Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayuba Ilya, and today on this show, this is what we do every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you perspectives and analysis on major issues of national concern. On the show today, we'll be looking at the issue of Nigeria launching its third NICOMSAT, satellite, and we'll be having the former Minister of Communication in the studio to talk to us about this, and then also we'll be taking a look at the burning issues around security and also the electoral amendment. Now we have in the studio as well the General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, Hamza Idris, and he'll be giving us perspectives on the stories on the front pages of our newspaper. Now, but before all of that, let's have a look at the news highlights. Now, on the news highlights, High Court in Abia has ordered the federal government to pay the sum of 1 billion naira to the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, and issue a letter of apology to him. In a ruling on Wednesday, according to his lawyer, Aloy Ejimako, the court presided over by Justice Benson Anya stated that the federal government violated the IPOB leader's fundamental rights. The court also recommended political solution to the agitation for the restoration of the defunct Biafra Republic championed by IPOB. Kanu had approached the court demanding 5 billion naira over the invasion of his father's house by the military on September 10, 2017. Also, the Senate has commenced work on a bill that seeks to regulate house rent in the Federal Capital Territory. The bill, which passed the first reading on Tuesday, sought to reduce payment of house rent by tenants from 1 or 2 years at first instance to 3
you may sit down because it's not going to be a debate.
Payment.
I'm just trying to explain.
Smart Adeyemi
Yesterday, we agreed here that we just amend
outrageous rents
this section, this clause,
in case of stiff resistance
to
from landlords.
a new
Adeyemi said
electoral
the proposed law will provide
based on the observations raised by Mr. President.
For any tenants,
you know, you are all in this thing.
Above
when the Senate leader
and in sports news, Nigeria Basketball Federation has announced that its elective Congress will take place on January 31, 2022. This is contained in a letter issued by the Secretary General of the Federation, Olabisi Afolabi, to the International Basketball Federation, informing it about the new date. The letter is written as directed by FIBA and recommended by the NBBF Reconciliation Committee. Also, the white paper on the NBBF Reconciliation Committee is equally ready for adoption and implementation. The development may end the lingering leadership crisis rocking the NBBF. And that's that for the news highlights. We will now be taking a look at the events that made history on today, the 20th of January. Please stay with us. there you have it. Today in history, very, very important historical facts not to forget, especially the one from America when the first black president emerged. You know, it was a moment of a lot of anxiety. A lot of black people, not just in America, the world over, we're looking up to America to see what's going to happen. Looking at the history of America because of the racism and, you know, the past, the issue about slavery and the rest of them. And there you have Barack Obama, who have, you know, his lineage stemming back to Kenya, coming to America to become the first black president. It was historical, and I believe that it was a major game changer when it comes to, you know, the issue of racism in America. So that was quite a history not to be forgotten. Now we'll be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And we have in the studio Hamza Idris, the general editor, to review with us these papers. Beginning with the story that says vehicle registration portal fails as importers decry delays at ports. And then you'd see also the next one, electoral bill, fresh controversy as Senate reps approve different versions. Well, yeah, from what we know so far, the Senate is, you know, maintaining the status quo, allowing direct primaries, indirect primaries, and also consensus. But the House of Representatives is saying a different thing. There should be no room for consensus, that there should only be direct and indirect primaries. So we'll see how that goes. I believe that there will be a conference committee of sort of bringing together both chambers to resolve these differences before it will finally be transmitted to the president. Also, you have Abdul Salami Sultan, others to grace Daily Trust Dialogue today. So the 19th Daily Trust Dialogue is holding today and is going to be fully packed with a lot of discussions on board, talking about politics, security, and the economy. The Daily Trust newspaper leads with the story about politics, convention, APC to pick chair from 4 contenders. The writer says aspirants lobby Buhari's men as convention timetable released. Yari, Sharif, Yuguda edged out. You'd also see President has final say. Crisis persists in Zamfara, Sokoto, Abia, Benue chapters. And then the pictorial there shows you the fight, well, not the fight, the football match between the Super Eagles yesterday, where the Super Eagles won. Super Eagles end AFCON group phase in style, beat Guinea Bissau 2-0. So it's an interesting one. For those who have not watched the show, the match, you can pick a copy and have an idea of what transpired there. Displaced girl raped by aid worker commits suicide. A very tragic story there on page 13. Then fuel price, NEC recommends 302 naira per litre. And the next story there, Buhari arrives Kaduna, inaugurates projects today. That's on page 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Very, very interesting stories really to look at. So let's take a look at other papers now. The Blueprint newspaper. There you have quite interesting stories. The lead story says Electoral Act Amendment Bill. CSOs slam Senate consensus option. Bill remains in limbo. You'd find that on page 6 with the writers. Upper Chamber settles for direct, indirect consensus arrangements. Chambers to harmonize positions. Reps opt for direct, indirect primaries. Consensus undemocratic. Invitation to litigations. That's according to civil society organizations. So it appears that we seem to be finding a balance somewhere, but it's still not yet Uhuru until the final harmonization by both chambers. Now, the pictorial there shows you discussions at the House of Reps between the Speaker and other lawmakers, and then at the bottom of that, we will defeat evil forces contesting soul of Nigeria. That's according to Osinbajo. NAPTIP, DSS operatives rescue trafficked Burundians from Imo village. And then 108,000 birds at risk as birds flu hits Kaduna. FEC approves 75.78 billion naira for FCT, erosion control transportation projects. Lagos acquires new trains for intra-city metro rail line. And then, of course, you'd see other stories there below the nameplate. We are deploying drones, other technologies to tackle insecurity. CBN leads banks 9.17 trillion naira in 7 months through SFL window. When experts brainstormed at First Bank Economic Outlook 2022 webinar, you'd find that on page 20. And then AFCON, Super Eagles spank Guinea-Bissau, zoom into round of 16. So those are the stories on Blueprint newspaper. Take a look at The Guardian. The Guardian also has, some stories leading with a political one. Electoral bill, CSOs knock Senate over consensus option as National Assembly re-amends bill. And then you see also Senate reps bow to Buhari's request on Electoral Act. Consensus option undemocratic, says Sislak. Huriwa, legislature a captive of Buhari. NAS attempt to over-regulate political parties unnecessary, says Olurode. And then you see also Buhari has no option but to assent to bill, says Women Forum. And then the other story is there. Court awards 1 billion naira to Kanu, orders FG to tender apology. And then the next one, watch out for the RAM column tomorrow. And then other stories, PVCs don't expire. INEC tells Tinubu, insists double registration an offense. Kicks Knox Trail Rice Pyramid unveiling. And then you see another one, U.S. vows to bolster democracy in Nigeria. So these are the stories on The Guardian today. And then the next one, The Punch. On The Punch newspaper, the paper leads with the story still on elections and politics. Electoral Act Amendment Bill, Senate bows to Buhari, includes consensus for party primaries. You'd also see Senate adds consensus to House of Reps, direct, indirect primaries proposal. Consensus will subvert popular will, antithetical to democratic principles. That's antithetical, yes, to democratic principles. That's according to civil society organizations. At the very top of that, you'd see fuel subsidy. NEC considers report today. TUC meets ASCSN, threatens showdown. PVCs have not expired. INEC counters Tinubu. FG to establish 18 modular refineries in oil-producing states. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper. Let's take a look at The Nation newspaper, which is the last paper we'll be looking at this morning. It says EFCC quizzes AMCON MD over sold assets. The next one, Kanu's trial continues February 16. Tinubu clarifies position on PVC. The lead story says governors tighten grip on APC ahead of convention. State healthsmen to shortlist 2 aspirants for chair. Zoning battles rages, and then convention guidelines out. These are some of the major stories on the newspapers today. Very interesting stories. Politics, discussions about 2023. Well, welcome to the morning show, Mr. Hamza Idris.
Good morning, Ayuba.
All right. Now, let's begin with this attempt by the lawmakers to find a balance. The House of Representatives, on one hand, is saying no room for consensus anymore because it's problematic. And then the Senate is saying just maintain status quo, direct primaries, indirect primaries, and consensus in line with what the president is saying. So what's the implication of this?
They will meet at the center. Yes, the Senate, which is the upper chamber with many elderly people, I think they are trying to tread the line of caution so that by the time they take the bill to the president, he will not reject it. Remember, when he rejected the other one, he alluded to the fact that all options should be given so that they can expand the democratic space. And there are 3 options for selecting or picking candidates: direct, indirect, and then consensus. So the dilemma here is, if, for instance, they take the option of the House of Representatives, there is a tendency of the president rejecting it again. And we are inching closer to the election. All the political parties are anxiously waiting to start doing some of these things. Even INEC, you can see, is in a dilemma. It says it cannot continue to do anything or release schedules of election and all that until the issue of the electoral bill, all the issues sorted out. So I can see some smart move on the side of the Senate. Yes, and then the House of Reps also, you can see they have the support of many CSOs and other stakeholders in the polity, saying they should restrict the options to direct and indirect primaries, meaning you must have an election. So, but there should be concurrence. So the likelihood is that the 2 committees from the Senate and the House of Representatives will meet and fine-tune it. But I see the House of Reps bowing to the option taken by the Senate.
But isn't it fair enough? I mean, the space is still open. It's not just direct primaries. You now have indirect primaries. The consensus thing seems to be problematic, isn't it, in terms of parties getting to choose? Some people do not get the chance to actually stand for elections because of this consensus thing in political parties.
It's an option. We cannot rule out that. And why some political parties opt for consensus is if they have some underlying elements, probably misunderstanding, lack of trust, mutual suspicion, and all that. So they try to opt for consensus so as to mitigate the effect of the underlying problems. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not really good, but it's an option in order to reduce acrimony in political parties. The leaders will now say, okay, probably let's pick Mr. A or Mr. B with the hope that at the end of the day we will get it right, instead of going for direct or indirect. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. That of direct primaries is that almost all members of political parties will participate in the election. And as we speak, there is none of the leading political parties, including the banana parties, that will tell you that this is the actual number of our members. They are still battling, they are still recruiting, they are still lobbying to have followership. Now, for the indirect, meaning you will have delegates, which is also problematic because few people will have control over the delegates. They will just camp them in a certain place, and then in the morning you see them going one direction, meaning that maybe the most powerful, the most influential, somebody who has the most resources will always have his way. So it's politics, democracy, and all that. But we will continue to fine-tune it, maybe with our analysis and all that.
All right. Now, I mean, we are seeing that the APC convention is also around the corner. Quite a number of people are contesting for the chair of the APC. Are we likely to see the impact of this electoral, amendment, having an impact
very
on
likely.
The convention?
Yes, very likely. Our lead story today, is about the politicking within the political party, that is the ruling party. Because whether we like it or not, no serious newspaper will go to bed you know, without interrogating, without snipping into the affairs of the major political parties. And APC is the ruling party. There are many contenders for the position of the chairman. And our story dwelled on the high wire politics, that they are narrowing on about 4 contenders. You have like 10 who want to be the chairman of the party. But credible sources told us that they are narrowing the options to about 4, and all of them are from the North Central.
Well,
are you surprised? North Central.
It looks like a real battle there.
Yes, you see, PDP picked its chairman, which was also through consensus, right? Ayochi from North Central. They try to, there is balance of power. Now, mutual suspicion between the 2 political parties. You know, each one looking at the direction where the other one is heading to. Now, the fact that PDP picked its chairman from North Central means there is the likelihood that the presidential candidate might come from the North or from the South. And if it is from the North, definitely it should be from North Central or Northeast. Then the vice president, most likely from the South, it could be Southwest, Southeast, or South-South. Now that APC is also narrowing the option to North Central, it means they will also pick their presidential candidate either way, maybe from the North, which could be Northeast or Northwest. And then the vice presidential candidate from the South, which could be South-South, Southeast, or Southwest, and vice versa. Meaning, if they pick the presidential candidate from the North, the vice presidential candidate will come from the South, and if it is the presidential candidate from the South, the vice presidential candidate will come from the North. So it's a very dicey situation.
How will this have an implication on the chances of, you know, some of the candidates from the southern region, you know, of the country? We have Tinubu Jagaban, who is, you know, everywhere, contesting or campaigning already. So will this, you know,
he has
have an
declared
implication
interest. Not only him, you can see many people are campaigning for the vice president, who is also from the Southwest. Now, you can see since the time Tinubu declared, those drumming the support for former President Goodluck Jonathan is like they have lowered the tempo. But you have former Abia State Governor, Senate Chief Whip, Ojo Uzor Kalu, who says once they choose to pick the presidential candidate from the Southeast, he will also throw his hat into the ring. So there are many options, and the political scenario is really snowballing. We'll continue to see so many things. The dynamics will keep changing. As I said, what we have today might change tomorrow. You understand? It might not be wrong, because it is the situation that will now dictate what will most likely happen. And we'll continue to see this up till next year, up till the end of this year, when we also have the candidates for all the political parties. The dynamics will continue to change.
All right, well, other interesting stories. This time around, I would like for us to look at the unfortunate story about the displaced girl that was raped by an aid worker and who eventually committed suicide. What do we know so far about this story?
Honestly, I shed tears last night when I was going through the story before passing the page. It's so devastating, and it brings to the fore the humanitarian crisis we have in Nigeria. Now, this thing happened in Borno State. This young girl you know, being at the IDP camp, so vulnerable, you understand. So one of the aid workers said she should go and clean his room. I wonder how an aid worker who's supposed to go and clean, you know, the abode of this vulnerable girl is now asking her to go and clean his house. And innocently, she went there. She was cleaning the house when he descended on her. And then he forced her, he deflowered her. Now she was shouting, crying, and then help in court came her way because neighbors rushed to the place, and then they realized what happened. She must be a virgin because of what she was, you know, saying. She was crying, saying, "Why did you do this to me? Why did you bring shame to my family? I can't take this." And then she rushed to his kitchen, took a knife, and then stabbed us, and that was where she died. So you can see the
Very
extent of man's inhumanity to man. This was a young girl, you know, a virgin, and then this man who, you know, a ghost, let me put it that way, a wicked fellow, you know, he took advantage of her vulnerability, lured her to his house, and then he raped her.
You know, this raises question about, you know, the caliber of people that are being recruited to do this job, you know, this aid work, social workers. It looks to me that this is not a job for everyone. It's not a job for just anyone. It has to be people who have humanitarian, who are passionate about humanitarian works, you know, at heart. But it appears that over here, just anyone fits into the...
You see, everything goes here. The fact that some of these aid workers pretend to be volunteers, and they are volunteers because they don't have anything to do. Let me give you a positive example. Is what is happening with the road safety. Yeah, a road safety commission, I'm not trying to divide up, but just to contextualize the whole thing. You have volunteers, right? They have a name, road safety. You see them in the evening, controlling the traffic, giving assistance and first aid. 99% of these people, they have something doing. Some of them are directors, some of them are permanent secretaries, some of them are captains of industry. They will go to work after they close around 4. Instead of going home, they now put the jacket, you understand, and then they assist the road safety in controlling the traffic and giving assistance. But if you go to some of these areas where you have serious humanitarian crisis, people who are so frustrated, people who don't have any work doing, they now say, okay, I want to be a volunteer. And now they join some of these NGOs.
Probably eyeing, yes, probably eyeing some of the relief materials that is being donated. So
you see what is meant for the IDPs, what is meant for the displaced, what is meant for the disprivileged, 90% of it going to these wicked people because they have nothing to offer but to take advantage of these vulnerable people. And this is one of the cases. I'm sure maybe more facts will emerge today as to the identity of this fellow, how he even found himself there. You will find out that he doesn't have any credentials, you see. So it's so sad that people who don't supposed to go close to some of these IDP camps, you know, have their way and they are entrusted with the lives, you know, and the living of thousands of people. And this calls for urgent action because we should see law taking its course on this matter. This girl, she said she don't want to bring shame to her family. And I don't think if the family will be accused because they are all vulnerable. You know, she was there with the parents at the IDP camps, and then this man took advantage of her.
quite a tragic one. We hope that the arms of the wrath of the Lord will catch up with this,
Yes.
and that it shouldn't go scot-free. Now, another story that seemed to be generating a lot of reactions by Nigerians is the unveiling of the rice pyramids in Abuja about just 48 hours ago here. A lot of people on social media are saying all sorts of things. You know, we've seen a kind of mixed reactions. I think that Nigerians should be commending, you know, government, isn't it? But we're seeing a reverse.
Yes. First, you know, soon after the launch, some photos emerged on social media. You know, some carpenters erecting the pyramid with timbers. But some media houses carried out a fact check and said, no, that video, you know, sorry, that photos, you know, have been there since 2018 or thereabout. And then they said it was in Delta State, one of the South states. So this dismissed the claim that it was, you know, a phantom pyramid. And then here, I know we were the first to go to the Abuja Chambers of Commerce premises to get the photos during the preparation. In fact, we displayed the pyramid on our pages to say something big coming up in Abuja, and it happened. It was a relationship between the Central Bank of Nigeria and Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN. They showcased what they achieved during the last farming season, and they brought 1 million bags of paddy to tell the world that we have also arrived, which is positive. But what some Nigerians are not really comfortable with is the prices of, you know, assorted rice not coming down at all. Many Nigerians cannot afford to buy rice. And when you are talking about abundance, it means price should come down so that every other person should be able to have it. But the price is not really coming down. And some are alleging that the federal government is just a copycat, saying they desecrated the wisdom behind having a pyramid, which had its roots in Kano during the days of the groundnut, when the Dantatas and the rest, you know, erected pyramids ahead of evacuation to, you know, other parts of the world.
Exactly. I mean, we know pyramids. Were they for, you know, for shows, like for showcasing and all that, or were they for some kind
honestly,
of storage?
I read the history. They are not really for shows. They are meant to have the products in one place. There was a school of thought that said it started when there was glut. I don't know how true, but there was, you know, this claim. And then another claim added that the Dantatas used that opportunity to, you know, attract, you know, the suppliers, because they were not directly the suppliers. There are middlemen who move around the country to mop up the supplies from farmers and then take them to Kano, and then they will be paid. And then the Dantatas, they formed the pyramid. But even then, from what I personally read, they used to do the pyramid with pump, because there was this man, I can't recall the name. They say he was famous in putting the last one at the, you know, peak of the pyramid. Those days, he was so famous that when he was to put the last one, you will see drummers, you know, wrestlers, many people coming, and then, you know, they will celebrate it, and then he will put it. Then later, the white men will now buy it, and then it will be loaded onto trains and then taken to Lagos for onward transportation to US, UK, and other countries. So it has been an interesting thing. Maybe this government didn't get it right, but as far as many others are concerned, this is a feat, because for the first time in decades, we have pyramids, real pyramids. Whether they have satisfied the requirement of being called pyramid or not, I think time will tell. Yes.
All right. Now, we have also very interesting stories coming, just when government is intending to remove, fuel subsidy in the country, about FG to establish 18 modular refineries in oil-producing states. Well, how would you react to this?
I'm not happy. This is almost 7 years into the administration. Two, not has. You get what I'm saying? Yes, because part of the campaigns of this government was that they will demystify the issues around subsidy. Because in the first place, they didn't even believe that there is subsidy. And this was partly what they used to defeat the then ruling PDP. And since they came, have they done anything? Honestly, they are in a serious dilemma now, because you can see the Senate president who met with the president 2 days ago said President Buhari told him that he didn't direct anybody to remove fuel subsidy. Now, the Minister of Finance, we have heard her several times saying they only made provision for this subsidy up to June this year. And in our paper today, you can see, and many other papers carried the report, that the National Economic Council formed a subcommittee. It is chaired by Vice President Osibanjo. They formed a subcommittee which was headed by Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai. And that committee recommended that the price of petroleum should be jacked up to 304 naira. But when they tabled the report, it was reviewed and then jettisoned, because other governors said, what we need is total deregulation. But I can assure you that this government, they will not do it, because this is an election year, and it will be the albatross of the government if they remove this subsidy. They missed a golden opportunity.
Now, are there lessons really, to learn from this kind of, decisions to politicize everything? In the previous administration, there was, the plan to remove the fuel subsidy, but it was hijacked sort of politically, and
by
it turned out to be and it turned out to be a political matter. Yes. So, are there lessons really for us?
A lot of them. As I said, you can see this government is in a serious dilemma. Most likely today or tomorrow, the NEC will meet, and we don't know what they will. They will most likely say, okay, let's remove the fuel subsidy. But I can assure you that Nigerians will not take it lightly, because what this government should have done, you see, when it came on board, is to make sure that they fix the refineries within 2 years. You have 8 years. If they had fixed the refineries, because the whole brouhaha is because we import the petrol we consume. That is where the problem is. Now, assuming the refineries are at optimal capacity, there is no need to be importing the liquid, meaning we can just refine it and then dispense. But we import it. And based on the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, you see, the forces of demand and supply should determine the price. So now fuel, the crude is over 80 or thereabout. Now imagine if it gets to $100, $120, meaning Nigerians, with the removal of subsidy, they will buy a liter in petrol station around 1,000 naira, not even 400, because the higher the price of the crude goes, the higher the price of the pump price. And when it comes down, which is very unlikely, going by what we are seeing of recent, that is when the price will come down. So the solution lies in the preparedness of government to, face the bull by the horns. That is, fix the refineries or give support to private individuals to fix the refineries. This government has just surrendered, saying the Dangote refinery will do the magic. Dangote refinery is just one, and this is a private investor. He put his money there, so it's not going to be Father Christmas. Yes, so government must have to face reality if they ultimately win, because this is year of election. Of course, the election will take place next year, but I want to assure you that as a political reporter, we know that there is nothing serious in terms of serious projects that will happen this year, because all the political parties' attention is on election. So whichever government comes in, if they win, again, the APC, the first thing they should do is to fix the refineries. Before they came, they have been talking about modular refineries. And what is the capacity of modular refinery? You understand? They should take it serious. If they had wanted, I can assure you that they will have built at least 4 or 5 brand new refineries. But they only issued contract for the reactivation or renovation or turnaround, whatever they call it, of the Warri refinery. We don't know when they will finish. The Kaduna refinery, which they also contracted, work has not started. So you can see the politics. And that is why they are in a serious dilemma. Now, Mr. A saying A, Mr. B saying B, and Mr. C, and when they meet, they'll keep quiet, they will not even talk.
Sure. All right, now one final story for us to look at about Nnamdi Kanu's trial. On the one hand, we're seeing that the federal government is increasing the charges, against him. On the other hand, we're also seeing a court in Abia State ordering for federal government to pay him 1 billion naira, for violating his fundamental human rights. What are your thoughts on this?
You see, courts are not Father Christmas. This is the famous saying. So when you approach a court, you make your demand. If you defend it, and the person you took to court, if he did not defend himself, the tendency is that you will have your way. Now, Kanu asked for this at a state high court, and when I read the story, the judge, number one, he cleared the air that contrary to certain claims that the court does not have jurisdiction to entertain the case, is a nullity. So that was why he entertained the case. Number two, he said that yes, there was invasion, the house of the father of Nnamdi Kanu, and for that, government should pay him 1 billion naira. Now, on the other side, the judge said the defendant, which is the federal government, I think the Attorney General of the Federation and others, that they did not counter some of these claims. But it's a state high court, meaning there is room for appeal, which I strongly believe that the federal government will go for, because they will appeal the judgment. But we don't know what will happen at the appeal court, and maybe the case will even get to the Supreme Court. But what we know at the center is that the federal government has also changed and then increased charges against Kanu. Apart from treason, they put other variables there. This case, I think, will drag up till the end of this administration. Okay. I don't want to preempt the courts.
That's fine.
But it's a funny case.
I'll just give you 1 minute to talk about the Daily Trust Dialogue, which is going to happen today. So just in 1 minute, what are the expectations for you?
This is our flagship for a very long time. We are known for this. It is what we are proud of. Unlike many other newspapers that give awards to governors, best governor of the year, best Democrat, best industrialist, and all that, we don't do that in Daily Trust. What we do is to serve as a think tank for a better Nigeria. And this program is it, because we invite prominent people who will come and then talk on the theme. The one we have for this year is 2023, politics, economy, and insecurity. Okay. You can see these are serious issues.
Okay.
So I'm sure Nigerians will be delighted with the outcome of what happened today.
All right, thank you so much. Well, that was Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, sharing with us his thoughts about some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Now, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other issues on the program. Please stay with us.
When a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. This is Daybreak, reaching you live from Trust Television's headquarters here in the nation's capital. And now we'll be taking a look at other discussions on the program. Daily Trust Dialogue on the theme 2023. The politics, economy and insecurity is holding today at the NAF Conference Center and Suits, Gwarinpa Expressway here in Abuja. And we are now being joined by the Member, Board of Directors, Media Trust Limited, Munir Dang Ali, for a preview of the event and, you know, to give us a sense of what to expect on the show. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Yes.
Basically, it's going to be a discussion around the theme, and the theme is the general editor was saying just before the break, is about 2023, the politics, economy, and security. These are the three basic issues around which the speakers and other participants will speak on. And usually there is the involvement of participants, that is members of the audience, because it's a dialogue. So everybody who is there is supposed to try and give his view apart from the three principal speakers who are scheduled to make a short presentation, and then there will be a kind of panel discussions, and then some of the other notables who arrive at the event will also have a chance to bear their mind on the topic.
All right, well, this is so unique in the sense that this is 2022. Seem to be a lot of issues, you know, on the table already. So how important is this very edition of the dialogue?
Well, usually the dialogue is planned to talk to some of the big national issues of the day. As we are at the beginning of 2022, you will agree with me that much of the concern is what happens in 2023. Not because of any reason, not because it's an order, but because it's there for election in Nigeria. And usually general elections in Nigeria are hot contestations of ideas, of point of views, of the power brokers doing all their big deals in smoky rooms, and eventually you see the leaders that will emerge in the country after the vote is cast and counted. So because of that, we thought that 2022, the main issue that will dominate it is preparation for that election. Just as you saw even yesterday, the National Assembly has had to quickly amend the Electoral Act so that possibly when it gets to the president, he will sign it as amended after the initial drama of having direct primaries included, which the president objected to and didn't assent to the earlier bill.
All right, now what are some of the specifics that we are looking at, you know, when we talk about these issues? Maybe we should begin with the issues of the economy.
Well, the economy is, there's going to be a presentation by the former chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue, Mrs. Okauru, Okauru Omogui. She is well versed in the economy. I mean, considering that she was the chair of the Federal Inland Revenue about a decade ago. So she is going to make her presentation is largely going to address that aspect, because as you know, as they say, it is the economy stupid. That is, the economic matters are the most important things in any society. Why are we concerned about the election? It's about resources, allocation, and all of that. That is economics. And as you know, the Nigerian economy is currently in a very parlous state. There's so much youth unemployment. I mean, in spite of having the youth bulge, over 70% of Nigerians are young, and most of them cannot see like opportunities. Many are graduates of a decade without any job. We are not talking of the uneducated people who have to migrate every year to other parts of the country in order to be able to keep body and soul together. So it's the economy that is very important. That is why it is included there. There will be a discussion, a presentation, then a discussion on the matter, and the way forward will be charted.
Okay. All right. Now, security is also on the front burner, of course.
Of course.
In the northwestern part of the country of recent, in the last couple of years, is heavily under attack, by terrorists. We called them bandits before, but now terrorists, going by the prescription by the federal government. So what are the specifics that we're looking at? What's the way out, really?
Well, the way out is to look at why the current measures probably are not working or are not addressing the problem enough. We've had a lot of discussion for more than a year over the matter. At a time, Nigerians thought it is just a matter of changing the service chiefs. Eventually, that was done after a lot of foot dragging. We still hear issues of lack of equipment and what have you. But without preempting the discussion today, I believe that it's going to take it beyond that level. Because what about technology? What about special forces that Nigeria is supposed to have had trained? Why is it that these people, the bandit leaders, some of whom are well known, some of whom even grant media interviews, are still walking the streets, probably in the bushes? And they are still dictating the pace of things. And you see that Nigerian forces, the security forces, are more reactive. They are not taking the battle to where these people are. And to date, we haven't seen the president going to where these matters are happening to see that, okay, you said it's Zamfara or this bit of Zamfara forest where this problem is. What has happened? Visiting the troops on the front line and seeing things for himself. Probably that could also give some momentum to the whole effort. So the discussions, there are all sorts of people, from specialists in the area who've studied security to people who are like living it, and the authorities there. In fact, the governor of one of the governors of the Northeast, Professor Zulum, is being expected there. And as you know, before Northwest, it was Northeast.
All right. Okay. So, in terms of policy makers, how critical is this meeting, for policy makers in particular?
Well, the idea is to begin to have the discussion and interrogation of all the different ideas, so that at the end of the day, the best idea comes out and is forwarded. And this has been the tradition, actually, of the dialogue since it started 19 years ago. There've been discussion on all sorts of matters: the economy, the society, politics, and what have you. And we've had both local and even international speakers. At one time, the former president of Ghana, Professor Jerry Rawlings, was here. He made a presentation about democracy in Africa. So also the late wife of late Nelson Mandela, that is Winnie Mandela, she was also here. And then other local speakers include Maurice Iwu, when he was the chair of INEC, Atahiru Jega, before he even became the chair of INEC, Nuhu Ribadu, when he was at the EFCC, and quite a host of others. In fact, it was at the dialogue that President Obasanjo, as a former president, was chairing, where he made that famous remark that made headlines the following day, when he asked questions about the health of the then president, Umar Musa Yar'Adua, who died later.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing what to expect, with us here on the show. I'm sure our viewers would like to watch, so if you are not in Abuja or you are not going to be able to join, physically, you can watch live stream on YouTube, and this is going to be aired live as well on Trust TV. So today, the dialogue is where to be. Thank you so much for coming. We look forward to joining you at the venue.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll have another guest in the studio, former Minister Communications in Nigeria, to talk to us about the proposed launching of Nigeria's second satellite. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. And here we've been looking at quite a number of issues really of concern. And now we'll be taking a look at the strike action by Keke Napep operators in Kano following the demands by Karota, that's the state regulating body for Karota, and about the tickets, something about tickets, and that caused a whole lot of, row in the state, and we're seeing that a lot of losses is being incurred as a result of that. Over, billions of naira is being lost already, as a result of that strike action. So we are joined by the boss, Karota boss, online virtually to join us in this discussion. Just to have a sense of what's really going on. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
All right, it appears that we do not have our sound.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. So just give us a brief of what brought about this strike action by the Keke Napep operators and what's really going on and what's the discussion going on, right?
Okay, are we linked together now? Are we together?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Keke Napep went on strike last week, to protest the registration, mandatory registration, which the law provides that any commercial vehicle operating within the state, in section 15 subsection S of the Karuta law, provide that they should obtain a permit to operate within the state. And this permit is a yearly registration they do, which we did, they did during the former Governor Rabiu Konkoso, and since then they have not done it again till during the administration of Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje. In 2019, we repeat the registration. So it is a yearly registration, like I told you, but they feel it shouldn't be a yearly thing. That is one, according to them, and they want to do it for free, and even if you ask them to do it for free, they will not come until you enforce it. The most important thing is about the security of the state. Most of the crime committed in Kano, the little crimes, because we thank God the crime in the state is at the lowest minimum level, not compared to other states. We thank God for that. But the crimes committed within the state, most of it you see it happening with the KK NAPEP. Every day you hear one crime or the other with the KK, one crime or the other with the KK. So the State Security Council advised that the registration be renewed, and we informed them. We called the leadership, we sat with them, we discussed, and we tell them to pay 8,000 naira for the renewal, and those that have a new tricycle, they should pay 18,000 naira. But unfortunately, they decide not to do it, and we decide to enforce it. That's what brings about the problem. Now, they went on strike where the NBA came in. Last time they did the same thing. The State Labor Union came in to reconcile us with them, ask them to do it. It's the law that provides for that, as well as security for them, because I cannot condemn all of them. Most of them are responsible tricycle riders who are out for their daily bread, while some of them are the criminals in them, of course, yes. They decide not to do it, of course, and the labor union broker peace between the my agency and them, which is responsible for this registration. Now the second time that they are supposed to do it, because from 2019 to date we did not repeat the registration because the governor looked at the situation of the COVID problem, the economic hardship, the economic problems within the country, and then well at large. He said we should allow them for those periods. But within that period, there is a growth of almost over 10,000 of them are registered. They just decide to copy other people's number, go and commit crime. When you arrest somebody, you find that it's not the one. You arrest one KK with 20 different numbers. So now that the economy is a bit stable, we decide to recapture them and renew the ones that had already registered to make sure they are still
tricycle, popularly
the one
known as
riding the tricycle, because some of them sell it, some of them purchase the new ones, some of them did not use their old numbers. So if you are not updating them, you keep having problem in the state, especially in terms of security, like I said, not only the revenue generation aspect.
Okay, now,
so the NBA now came in
for this exercise to be carried out by these operators. Do they have enough time? Have you given them enough time to do this?
We gave them enough time. since December, we asked them, November, sorry, we asked them to do through November, December, and we will start enforcement 1st of January. So when we start the enforcement, that's when the problem started. And now after the discussion with the NBA, I have to specially thank the NBA chairman and the director SSS of Kano State, who also begged the governor to look at other issues which they raised, to request the governor to give them some leverage time within which to comply with the registration. Now, yesterday we've discussed at length, and we agree that they will continue registration from today up to the end of February.
We're going to say that, I mean, if you look at the number of tricycle operators in Kano, quite a large number, I mean, in hundreds of thousands, isn't it? Do you have enough personnel to make sure that that exercise, you know, is being conducted within the time frame with which you've provided?
Well, it is only assumption like we did from the first time. People think they are in hundreds of thousands, but they are not up to 100,000 tricycle in Kano. The last registration we did, they were not more than 50,000, and we believe plus or minus now they can be up to 60,000 now. And even if they are up to 100,000 or 200,000, we have enough manpower and the equipments to do this registration within the shortest possible time. Yes, we can do it.
The losses that is being incurred as a result of this strike action.
You said, can you come again, please?
Are you worried about the economic implication of this exercise? I mean, given the fact that we're already dealing with a lot of insecurity situation in the country, you know, so if you look at the losses that is being incurred, are you worried about that? Are you concerned about that?
Well, of course, when there's any problem and losses incurred, every right-thinking person will have to be concerned about it. But it's not what you think. The losses are more on the side of the tricycle who do not go out to work and get their daily bread. The government gets only 100 naira from them on a daily, which we call a daily ticket provided by the law. That's only about 1 million, 1.5, at most 2 million naira daily. So the losses are more on the side of the tricycle owners. And of course, there is the suffering from the side of the masses who use this tricycle as the only means of transport. And they went on strike. But the government is coming up with the mass transit now. By the end of this month, they will start operation, because the government has to break the monopoly of this tricycle, because we feel, yes, they are Kano State indigenes, most of them, while some of them are from our neighboring state who are also our brothers, as well as Kano, as you know, have received different kind of people from different part of this country, including the Yorubas, the Igbos, who also involved in this business. They are doing it peacefully. The government provides the inevitable environment for them to do it. Doing that, allowing them to be the only means of transport,
the suffering that is being
bring about the monopoly.
So indigents. And you talk about that the government is making efforts to make transportation available, but shouldn't that have been something that has been done, you know, before now? I mean, the strike action is, for how long is it going to linger? You know, we should have made provision for people, isn't it?
Yes, of course. You see, this thing happened now, and the government has been preparing, of course, for the mass transit transportation. But sometimes you look at other factors. When you send these KKs away from the road, you are sending thousands of people off the street who live on the daily basis, their daily bread on this business. So the government is concerned with the security also, but finally the government has to take decision to look at other avenues where it can transfer the KKs to. For instance, beside the mass transit, there are smaller vehicles which the government will also bring into the transportation system, and the government is considering giving these KKs that advantage to use, so that we don't just bring the mass transit to send these people away. They are Kano State indigents, they are our neighboring states indigents, and the country at large, like I said. So anybody on that business who we legitimately capture, the government will find one thing or the other that will be repressing them with. That is the agenda now.
So what are the expectations?
Of course, the expectation is that the security situation of the state will improve. Like I rightly told you from the beginning, we thank God for the peace we have in Kano State, which I believe is not just by coincidence. It's part of the effort of the state governor, which he carries along the security agencies, financing all the security agencies to do their work, taking care of so many important aspects of security. For instance, the governor requests the president to approve one of the forests as the training ground of the military, which the president graciously approved, and he think millions of naira to construct the accommodation, hostel and what have you for the military, and they are doing their training there. So by doing that means you don't allow the tourists to come into the forest to settle. They are every day working day and night doing their exercise, not only doing their training there, but all the forest now is the governor have put cameras in the forest, which from his office and from the office of the Commissioner of Police, Director, SSS, you can clearly see Palgore Forest, complete Palgore Forest right inside the office. So anybody coming into that forest, they can easily see it and react immediately. That is one. Number two, there's a synergy between the security agencies. As much as they carry the little ones, that is like Karota, they carry us along in helping with the intelligence information and other things, because we are every day on the road. We arrest a lot of criminals and we hand them over to the security agencies. They encourage us, they give us training. Like the Director, SSS and the Commissioner of Police, they give us training on intelligence gathering. So they don't take chances on security. In Kano, the security chiefs are working together, not unlike other states. You see there is rivalry between the DSS and the military, the DSS and the police, the DSS and the civil defense, the police and the civil defense, like that. But in Kano, we thank God for this good working relationship. Everybody is collaborating with his brother to make sure that they keep the state in peace as is needed.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning and giving us an update on what's really happening with the strike action there. Baffa Danagundi, Managing Director, Karota, Kano State. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you again. All right, now with that, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll now have our next discussion. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. And now Nigeria is to launch a second satellite, SAT-2, into the orbit to boost the nation's satellite communications capacity. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Ali Pantami, said that he had secured the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari for purchasing of the satellite. Our report said that the federal government has earmarked the sum of 2.5 billion naira for Satellite 2 project in the 2022 budget estimate. The existing SAT-1R, which was launched in 2011 with a lifespan of 15 years, will expire in the next 4 years. Recall that the federal government had in 2017 announced plans to raise $550 million for the construction of 2 new communication satellites for Nigeria, which the Chinese Export and Import Bank accepted to provide. Now, we have a guest in the studio, Barrister Adebayo Shitu, former Minister of Communications in the studio, to give us perspectives on this. Thank you for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure being here for the first time. I want to commend Media Trust for these wonderful achievements over the last decade or so. I'm so impressed with what I've seen so far. Sure. I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Let's begin with a look at, the Ministry of Communications, the commission, rather, National Communications Commission, on this stride, of launching the second satellite. If you look past, some of the things that you did in that commission and what is happening right now, would you say that some of your legacies are being, carried on?
Let me start by making a distinction between NCC, which runs and manages communications, telephonic communications, and NICOMSAT, Nigerian Satellite Communications. Those are 2 different, agencies of the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. So satellite communication is handled not by NCC, but by NICOMSAT, Nigerian Satellite Communications Limited. So I think that, foundational premise should be established. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I am happy that at last something is being done by government on, getting satellite communication, the second, satellite in orbit. I regret to say that while I was in office, we wanted to be proactive, and we looked at the situation of having just 1 satellite in orbit for a country of 200 million Nigerians as akin to a transport company not having a spare tire. If you do business of transportation, maybe from here to Lagos, and potential customers know that you don't have a spare tire, nobody will patronize you. Over the last more than 20 years, almost 20 years now, Nigeria has had one satellite in orbit. That means there's no spare tire. That is the analogy. And because of that, most government agencies would not even patronize NICOMSAT for their satellite communications requirements. They prefer to patronize foreign satellite companies, particularly in Europe and, near Asia, And I had seen this while I was in office. I'm not here to blow my trumpet. I made effort at that time to try and procure 2 new satellites at the time, rather than just another one. Because satellite communication is a huge business, which when you are properly equipped, the sky is the limit. We secured approval at that time from Chinese Export Bank. They were ready. We negotiated for the 2 satellites for construction. Usually construction will take 2 years. We negotiated for the 2 satellites in orbit, for $550 million at that time. Unfortunately, it was decided, not by me nor by the ministry. Some external forces felt that we needed to go and borrow again. We should go and look for private investors to come in. So we didn't have a choice because, we had bosses and, unfortunately, a lot of people were not really encouraged to come and invest in a government business. So I think that has been the cause of the delay. If we had done the right thing at that time, I've left office for more than 2 years now. So, about last year, they would have delivered the 2 satellites, in orbit. And I believe that the money that would have come into government's pocket since that time, if the right things had been done, would have been massive. Now, but it is said that it is better late than never. Interestingly, government is now going back to the same China Exim Bank, to take the loan that had been approved more than 4 years ago. It's very unfortunate. I regret it, but Nigeria has to continue to make progress.
If you talked about even government agencies, most of them do not prefer to use NICOMSAT. Isn't that a contradiction?
Well, you see, if government refuses to do the right thing at the right time, I've told you, most Nigerian universities patronize external satellite companies. Before you can enforce them to patronize local agencies, you must have provision sufficiency. You must be able to give them the trust, the confidence that if the one satellite breaks down, there'll be another one which will boost that service at that time. Nobody wants to, patronize a company which does not have extra tire, as I have, been discussing it. So I believe once we have sufficiency of it, once we have 2 or 3 in orbit, then we can enforce that, look, what is produced locally, you cannot go out to, to procure. Like Mr. President has always been saying.
Now, let's talk about the implication on this, of this on national security. We've always talked about intelligence gathering for our security forces as very, very key to the fight against the insurgency and, terrorism and all that. Having just one, what does this imply?
Even that one can break down. We had one before. We had satellite R before. What is being used now is R1. That the one which was used to compensate us for the collapse of the original one. So, but I have always insisted, and I'm still saying that whatever we are doing, we must think ahead as a nation. We should not just, look at it from what we require now. If you think you require only one car now, suppose that car breaks down, you want to go out in the morning and then you do for a very important assignment and you kick the car and it won't kick. Then you get disappointed. So it is always good to be proactive, to have more than enough, particularly for a country like Nigeria. That if we have sufficiency in it, the patronage from Nigerian agencies and individuals will be more than enough for us and to bring more money for government coffers. This is what I'm saying.
All right. All right. Now, there's this discussion also about 5G. Nigeria, about to launch the 5G and all that. With this infrastructure, do you think that we are ready for that?
Well, you see, 5G is a different ballgame. It's not necessarily tied to satellite communications. 5G is about telephony communications, handheld and all of that. And we do know that, when you say 5G, it means 5 generation. We have had 1G, we have had 2, 3, 4, and now, manufacturers are trying to up their game. So there's no doubt that it is, and it is not about Nigeria, it is a worldwide thing. The benefit of 5G advancement is going to be, universal. And the fact that there's 5G, or we are moving to 5G, does not mean that 1G is not still operating, does not mean that 2G is not still operating. In fact, it is not all telephone devices that can, utilize or benefit from 5G. You need, high resolution telephone handsets, to benefit from it. So it will provide more options for those who can afford it. You know that if you go to a telephone shop, there are still telephones you can buy for 10,000. There are ones you buy for 20. There are ones you buy for $500,000. Definitely a 10,000 naira phone will not be able to utilize, 5G, service. So it provides option, and for me, it's a good thing that the world is making progress in the area of, telephony, because with 5G, the speed will be much more, and then more often than not, you would even find out that once you have 5G, you can make better use of non-rate calls instead of the calls that require, you to pay, per minute or per whatever. You utilize more of that data, and then in data, all that you pay for is in data. When you make calls, the calls are free.
Okay. All right. Now, let's digress a bit to the issues of politics. 2023 is around the corner. A lot of conversations are ongoing. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has declared his intention. The APC convention is around the corner. And so let's get your own perspective about the internal politics, in your party, the APC.
Well, you would agree with me that as of today, APC is the largest political platform on the continent of Africa. In the past, it used to be PDP, but we have since taken over. So for these political parties...
Larger than the ANC?
Larger than the ANC. The entire population of South Africa is about 40 million. And you are talking of a 200 million population, of which majority members.
Do we have statistics to back this claim, really?
Are you saying that Nigeria is not up to 200 million?
Nigeria is populated indeed, but as to membership of the APC, that's where I'm...
No, but you know that in the last election, the president, Muhammad Buhari, scored 15 million votes.
Did it come from members of APC?
Of course, members of all sympathizers. No,
when you have votes different from members,
let me tell you, from members and sympathizers, of APC. So you can confidently say that over the last 6 years that the president has been in place, over the last 6 years that APC has been in majority of states, they would have been winning more souls.
Do you believe that APC still maintain that popularity?
I can assure you that
now, looking at the insecurity situation, especially in the northwestern part of the country.
Look, the insecurity had always been in place. It's unfortunate that, the situation we are in, a lot of people ascribe the insecurity which has grown out of some other problems over more than 10 years, they want to ascribe it to the president or to APC. You know very well, if you come from the northwest of this country, that the insecurity there started from cattle rustling. It was through cattle rustling that, from there it graduated.
Albeit, we've seen an increase, we've seen a hike in the recent cases of insecurity.
Exactly, and you must also concede.
So the popularity of the APC back in 2015, would you say is the same as we have it now?
Interestingly, look, have you seen any major politician moving from APC to some other parties? If there are, what are the figures?
What about the followership? I'm talking about the followership.
Look, the followership are also part of, when I say major politicians moving into APC, you don't see people moving out of APC, despite the perceived problems. And that is to show that despite the hiccups, despite the challenges that government is facing, a lot of people still appreciate that. Governance is not about a one subject issue. Government is about so many issues. And you know very well that when you go for an exam, maybe a WAEC exam, maybe you have 8 subjects. If you pass in 6 of the 8 subjects, they won't say because you didn't pass in 1 or 2 subjects, so you have failed. Nobody, no examiner of conscience will say that. And you should also appreciate that the armed forces of Nigeria are doing a very wonderful job.
All right, now, are you concerned about, this internal wranglings, as to weakening the capacity of the party to be able to win the 2023 election?
Look, I have always said it. Political parties are not limited liability companies owned by some shareholders.
But that's what they look like.
They may look like it. You know very well that in the corporate environment of maybe media trust, you have your chairman, you have directors, you have managers, you have staff. Somebody calls the shots in a company like this. In a political party, political parties are an agglomeration of joinders who don't need anybody's permission to come in, and they don't need anybody's permission to exit. So is one laissez-faire, association.
Do you have any fears as to the convention of the party coming up, whether or not it will end up strengthening the party?
A lot of our enemies will be disappointed at the end of the day. I can assure you. A lot of our enemies will be disappointed. People think that, there would be an implosion. But I can assure you that, of course, we continue to encourage our leaders to do things right. As long as we follow and obey the rules of engagement among ourselves, we will continue to make progress by the grace of God.
All right, we have several camps, contesting for the 2023
Again, it is part of
election.
the attribute and what, the activities of political parties.
Yes, and some people are saying that if you look at the southwestern part of the country, you have Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has declared his intention, and you have someone who is considered a mentee of Asiwaju, the Vice President Osibanjo also, even though he hasn't officially declared his intention, but a lot of drums are being...
So what's the big deal about that? What's the big deal about so many flowers blossoming?
Yes, so where do you lie? Where does your allegiance lie, if I may?
Let me tell you, at the appropriate time, we will make the best choice as a political party. And we will make the choice that will ensure that we get the right candidate who will be able to deliver Nigeria to APC. It's as simple as that.
All right, let's talk about your state, the politics there, the local politics there, and the whole discussions about the direct or indirect primaries, the internal crisis in the state. What are your thoughts about what's happening?
Number one, direct primary or indirect primary is not about Oyo State alone. This is a national problem.
Yes, but a lot of people are saying that governors are on the one hand and then lawmakers are on the other hand.
It's not governors and lawmakers that are the only members of our political party. I'm neither a governor nor a lawmaker, But I'm a critical stakeholder, there's no doubt about it. And I was concerned, if I have my way, all political parties should adopt the direct primary, method. You see, because we have had experiences of people in the name of a political party saying, this is the man our party will use, rather than subjecting everybody to democratic processes of selecting candidates, if I have my way. But I'm okay with the fact that both the National Assembly and the presidency have agreed to allow all options for all political parties, which is the latest that happened, I think, yesterday. And so Nigeria, we try.
Well, I mean, the most preferred choice, mostly you would see that.
I would have preferred that, because it is easier to corrupt the system if you have fewer people to do the selection process. And you agree with me that it is often said that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolute.
And in this case, we're talking about the state governors, isn't it?
Well, there's no doubt that the state governors, because they have the power of the purse, they became leaders and they have their own preferences. And if you allow a system where it is easier for a governor to dictate the thinking of selectors of candidates, then you'll be in a bigger problem. Let us have a situation where everybody is allowed to go to those who would eventually participate in the real election processes. Because fewer people may make mistakes, but if you allow, if the majority, have a sense of belonging, have a sense of having had the opportunity of selecting a candidate, of course, they work for the success of such a candidate.
Do you see justification in some of the reasons given by the president? The issue of costing of direct primaries, the issue of giving others the choice and the opportunity to get to decide.
I think the issue, I think whatever the advantages and disadvantages, the National Assembly, which is the supreme law-making body in this country, have taken a decision yesterday, and so be it for now.
All right, now we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on the program. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you from the nation's capital here. And we have in the studio Barrister Adebayo Shitu, the former Minister of Communications, in the studio. Well, we started off with talking about Nigeria's, plan to launch the second satellite. And then now moving on to other issues, as regards politics. Of course, we're not going to let him go until we get his thoughts about some of the recent happenings in the political sphere. So talk to us about your own thinking on zoning. There's this discussion about, the presidency should come from the south or the north. I mean, it has always been a formula in which leaders are elected in Nigeria, right from in times past. So what are your thoughts on that now?
Honestly, if I have my way, merit. Of course, we have qualitative people from all over the country. And I always say this. If you enter a plane, an aeroplane, you are going to UK, you are going to Kano, you are going to Lagos. You don't start looking for whether your pilot is an Igbo man or Hausa man or whatever. The most important consideration is the man an expert? Can he deliver? Can he get you to your destination? Running a country like Nigeria is, to my mind, running a business. You need the most intelligent person combined with experience, combined with sufficient wherewithal.
So where did the concept of zoning now came from?
You see,
I mean, all along we knew this, and then we were doing zoning.
I have said it. Muhammad Buhari, our president, was not elected because he comes from Daura or because he comes from North. He was brought in because, as at that time, he was the opposite of the corrupt and inept PDP administration, particularly with the leadership at that time. And I just wanted a break from that, rotten, time. So it is okay for us to look at it and say the man has been there for 6 years, perhaps. The next person should come from another part of the country. Okay, it suits our emotions as a country and all of that. But you see, the Constitution itself does not directly talk of zoning with regard to the leadership. But what it says, where you pick a president from a part of the country, the vice should come from another part.
Exactly. So it infers. The Constitution infers. And major concern for many, or for some Nigerians, is that this issue about national cohesion and unity. How do we give a sense of belonging by, to those who, have not really been benefited as much, from this?
Well, again, when you talk of benefit, when we have a government which spreads benefit, I think there will be less cry for, every zone having to, have a bite, to it. But over the years, we've had this problem of lack of trust among us and all of that. So maybe just to assuage feelings, we can then, now start looking at, zoning in quotes, But for me, if I have my way, I mean, if I start a company now, if I establish a company and I ask people to come and apply to be managing director and all of that, I'll look for the best material. And what I'm saying in essence is that even without zoning, every part of this country can have, a bite, in the sense that God has made it easy in such a way that you have the best brains from so many parts of this country.
All right, so when you talk about merit now, I want you to give us a graphic, representation or kind of description of what you think, someone who merits.
Number one, somebody who merits must be, particularly in today's Nigeria. Today's Nigeria is a very dynamic place where you want the most intelligent, the ones who have business acumen, the one who can dynamically transform Nigeria, and the one who perhaps, from his antecedents, can be trusted to have capacity and capability to run Nigeria in a business-like manner.
By business-like manner, you mean running governance like a business?
Like a business. I mean, because all Nigerians are shareholders in the business of Nigeria. They want education, qualitative, and if I have my way, free and compulsory education for every Nigerian child. Because the late Chief Awolowo had said in the past that if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And he has also warned that if you fail to educate the children of the poor, they will ensure your own children who get educated are not able to sleep with their two eyes closed. So I want somebody who can bring in free education at all levels, free qualitative education. I want somebody who can transform the Nigerian economy within the shortest possible time. I want somebody who can provide infrastructure across the country. I want somebody who will be accessible and will be selfless and incorruptible. These are qualities.
Starting with the last one, incorruptible. A lot of Nigerians saw that in the current president that we have, at the moment. But not many are really impressed or pleased with what is happening, as regards even the fight against corruption.
What are they thinking of? What are they looking at? What are the complaints they have with the fight against corruption?
Complaints about that, it's selective, the approach.
I mean, I would be disappointed if anybody, I would be disappointed if anybody in his right senses says this administration is selective in the fight against corruption. This is the only administration where you have members, top members of the party, APC, being prosecuted. People at the National Assembly, people who have been ex-governors, and so on and so forth. And I have always said, if anybody has complained against anybody in this government, the appropriate thing is not to run to the media and start talking, shouting. Go to take your facts to EFCC and let us see whether EFCC will act on it or not. So it's not enough to criticize government that it is being selected. Show evidence of those who are corrupt or who have been corrupted, and where EFCC, after having been given all the facts, refused to prosecute.
All right. Now, if you look at the Daily Trust today, newspaper today, talking about the APC convention, they had to pick the chairman of the APC. It's likely going to come from among 4 people, 4 contenders. We have more than 4 people contesting, but it's restricted to 4 people. And lastly, from what we are gathering, is being zoned to the north central of the country. Can you comment on that?
Well, the party has a right, the party leadership has a right to draw up or formulate qualities of national chairmanship. So if they have done that, they are welcome in doing that. Again,
but we are still resorting to the zoning principle again.
Well,
I mean, after you said that it should be based on merit.
Yeah.
So we are going back to zoning.
No, I talk of merit with regard to the presidency.
So it only applies to the president?
No, it should, because it is only the president that concerns all Nigerians. If a party decides to take its chairman from anywhere, I mean, how does that affect?
How about merits from within the party? Isn't that a concern?
It will be a concern with regard to the presidency. I don't know what indices, guiding them in zoning the national chairmanship of the party. I'm not a member of the National Executive Party. I'm not privy to whatever their considerations are. But I know that we as party members will be bound by whatever, methods or whatever formula they impose on party members. But when it gets to the presidency, we will be going for a national general election. And if we don't do our homework very well, we will not, of course we know we have political enemies, we have co-contestants who would want to slug it out with us. So we have to get the best, to sell to all Nigerians. So
you're saying in essence that it's okay to zone in the
party? Within
the party, but it's not okay to zone when it comes to the presidency.
You see, I have said it. The case of a pilot is different from the case of a chief hostess or whatever. The pilot is the most crucial. If I'm in a plane and I'm not giving food, perhaps I won't complain. I say, how many hours am I using the plane? But the consideration of the pilot must be competent, he must be professional, he must have the patience, he must have the good health, to run the trip successfully. So, I mean, whatever the party, we won't have an option, within the party if they decide to zone it. Now we have an acting chairman of the party. I mean, what's the complaint against that person? After all, he was not elected. But when it comes to a presidential candidate, we must remember that we are going to face the electorate in a general election. And so, we must, get the best. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, Barrister Adebayo Shitu, former Minister of Communications, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
It's my pleasure.
We look forward to having you again.
Thank you so much.
All right. With that, we've come to the end of Daybreak for today. It's been quite interesting. In case you've missed, you can always catch up on our YouTube and also connect with us via our social media handles. And don't forget, the Daily Trust Dialogue is coming up today, later by 10 a.m. it begins, and then there will be a live stream on our YouTube channel, and also it's going to be aired live on Trust TV. You can watch that on our Facebook and also by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. My name is Ayuba Ilia. Join us again tomorrow for another time on the program. Bye for now.